Before you can start developing Ajax, you need to know a little bit about, well, what you need to know. So we're going to start off with what you're going to need in terms of tools. The first thing you're going to need is a text editor. Chances are good that you probably already have one. It's what you're using to create your HTML, your CSS, your JavaScript. Next, you're going to need a browser. Again, you already have one. For the purpose of this course, I recommend Firefox for a lot of reasons that I'll go into later, but you're going to need a browser to be able to test what you're doing. And lastly, you're going to need a web server. You haven't needed a web server in the past just to test your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But now, because of what Ajax is, you're going to need a web server in order to be able to test your code before you ever actually put it live. The second part of your toolkit is what you need to know, what you should already know from previous courses or previous experience. I'm expecting that you should know HTML, that you should know CSS, and that you should know JavaScript. If you're not comfortable with any of those, check out some of our other courses, which will be happy to teach you everything that you need. I'll be going into more detail in a later movie about more precisely exactly what you need to know about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now that we're getting started on Ajax, I'm assuming that you already have a site to which you wish to add Ajax. So what kind of site do you already have? Maybe it's a static HTML site. Maybe it's a site with a little bit of JavaScript, but no Ajax code yet. Or maybe it's a site where you've got tons of stuff that's already in PHP, Ruby on Rails, Perl, whatever, but all your code's on the server side. But now you want to add some client-side fanciness to it, and you want to do that using Ajax. So I'm assuming that you're already going to have some of this stuff. First thing you got to do is make sure that what you have works. I have seen people run into nasty troubles because they think they want a JavaScript or Ajax-enabled site, and they go and create their page, and then they go and add a whole bunch of code to it, and then they wonder why all this code isn't working, and they think it's a problem with JavaScript and Ajax. When actually, if they had just tested the HTML page, the static HTML page, all by itself in the first place, they would have found out that never worked properly. So before you add anything code-wise, make sure that what you have to start off with is already working. So now we can get into the workflow. And the workflow is very similar to what you've done with previous web pages. You edit just using a text editor. You move files to the server, or maybe you're already just editing them on the server, but they need to end up on the server before you can test. And if you've been doing web pages already, you already know what the next step is, and that's do it again. So you edit, make sure your files are on the server, test, and keep doing that until you get it just the way you want it. Next up, we're going to talk about exactly what the right tools are for the job, in particular text editors.